Hey, I'm Randy. I'm a Cheap Audio Man. Here at the Cheap Audio Man, we don't feel that audio equipment should cost as much as a really nice wedding for your grown adult daughter. Okay? So today we're talking about the Paradigm Monitor SE Atom. It's a nice little speaker. So grab a cup of coffee, sit down, and let's talk about the Paradigm Monitor SE Atom. Very tasty beverage. So we do have a new sponsor. Tammy's Gut Hooks and Fine Cutlery. When you can't risk it, when you're out in the brutal wilderness and you need your gut hook. It's so stupid. When you need your gut hook to work the first time, every time, think of Tammy's. Every time you buy a gut hook, you get another little knife with it. Sorry, that was dumb. Okay. All right. I'm sorry. I don't do blooper reels on this thing like some people do. Blooper reel on a YouTube channel. We're basically the public access of the internet. Sorry, I'm not supposed to drink when I'm recording. Okay. Paradigm. Sorry. Studio Monitor SE Atom. I just want to call it the SE Atom. I'm going to call it that. The Paradigm SE Atom. All right, initial impressions, they're really good looking. They have a very gloss finish on them. Looks pretty nice. I mean, if you get right up on it, you can see a little bit waves, but you can do the same thing on a car. Got a 5 1/4 inch woofer, a nice 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, and this is, besides clips, this is the first metal dome tweeter we've reviewed here at the Cheap Audio Man. Okay, I do have a gripe, and that is, I don't know if you can see this, but on the back here, first of all, I think the finish is just some type of something adhered to the enclosure, but there's gaps. There's a little gap up here, and there's little gaps over here. I didn't care for that. I mean, there's gaps in the 45s too. Now, I don't know if there's gaps in the actual MDF, which I'm assuming it is under there. There's gaps on whatever's covering it. Does it affect the sound? Probably not. I couldn't really hear any difference. Like I said, 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter, 5 1/4 inch woofer, 89 dB efficient, 8 ohms. Frequency response is 61 hertz up to 21,000 hertz. Does that translate into actual musical enjoyment? Nope, it sure doesn't. But on this one it does, because these are pretty good. All right, soundstage. It didn't knock me out of my seat, but it did everything it was supposed to do. Actually beat it by Michael Jackson. The beginning goes dung, dung, dung. That part, super wide. Very, very wide. Very pleasant. Imaging was good. Center imaging is great. I didn't really notice any layering, like forward and aft layering. That doesn't mean it's not good. Soundstage and imaging are really solid on this speaker. Okay. The only standout for me was "Beat It" by Michael Jackson. Everything else sounded good, normal, like most other speakers. Let's talk about bass. So the speaker's rear-ported, and the bass on this is really good. I'm starting to find out that the real value in speakers is in that kind of $200 to $300 range in the 5 1/4 inch woofers. Yes, there are 6 1/2 inch woofers out there in about the same price range. But for the most part, I've been more impressed with the 5 1/4 inch woofer size speakers that are more or less expensive than their 6.5-inch bigger brothers. I just think the sound seems to be more balanced. And even the bass response seems to be a little bit stronger on the 5.25 inches. I'm sure the 6.5s go lower, but the 5.25 inch just seem more balanced. Anyway, I'll get off on that. Okay. I've had to do this on a couple of speakers. And that's when I start to listen to it initially. I always have to look over to see, well, I don't always, but on some speakers, I have to look over to see if the subwoofer's on. That happened with these. It was just that good and that well balanced. And it rated only down to 61. They've done a really great job of balancing out the sound. And when I mean balance, I just mean the bass has enough heft in it to sound appropriate for the rest of this frequency range. Good balance. And Intergalactic by the Beastie Boys. I've said this a couple of times. If you want to hear how low your speakers go, or the impression of how low they go, listen to Intergalactic. If you have a sub, leave the sub on. Turn the sub off. Don't put any filters on this, and then listen to the song again. And on a speaker that has really well done low end, you won't get the extension, of course, but you'll still get the feel and the enormity of the bass on that song. And they did it very, very well. So bass, I think, is very well done. And like I said, I think bass is almost more well done on 5.25 inch woofer size speakers in this category than on some of the 6.5 inches. Anyway, let's talk about mid-range. Kalida or Kalida, I still don't know how to say it correctly. Her voice was detailed and clear, and you could feel the micro changes in her voice. Hello by Adele. Again, the micro details, the breaths, the inhales, and the vibrato in her voice. So well done on these. That song is recorded step back initially with her voice, and on speakers that don't mid-range well, she can sound a bit veiled. Not on these. Not at all. Ooh, I haven't listened to this one for a while. One by Metallica on the S&M 2 album. There is a point in that song where it goes that there's a lot going on in the mid-range and everywhere else. And a speaker that can handle itself with a lot of complexity keeps everything separated. A speaker that doesn't, everything starts to meld up, and I start to have an issue picking out the individual instruments. Not on the Paradigms. Not at all. Hurt by Johnny Cash. I got some hurt when I mentioned this before in another speaker. Somebody didn't like what I said about it. Anyway, in my experience, when I use the same DAC, the same amplifier, and I only change out speakers, so I'm only changing one variable, Johnny's voice can sound either forward, very forward, in the case of a KEF LS50, or very stepped back in the case of a Triangle Bro 3. A neutral speaker, in my experience, and this is just my opinion, generally has Johnny kind of right in the middle. He's still recorded forward. With these, he was right where he's supposed to be, in my opinion. Now, I wasn't there at the recording, so I don't know. I wasn't there when they mixed it at the end, so I don't know what they intended. I only know what I hear. He did it really well. Ooh, sad but true. I have, that's what I have written down there. more crunch than I've heard in other speakers. Almost like a power tool-ish vibe. And just a with just that extra detail in the guitar on the top end. And I'll get to why I think that in my final thoughts, but man, did a really good job. Something on the chain. Oh, banjo. It's a Fleetwood Mac. Something on chain. I can't remember the name of the song. Anyway, Fleetwood Mac off the Rumors album. I want to say Off the Chain. I know that's not it though. Anyway, there's a banjo. Do 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 do. I think that's how it goes. I could literally like see the strings being plucked at the beginning of that song. And then there's a cowbell. Listen to the wind blow. Something, something. That. I'm not going to sing anymore, but because it was really well done and you should listen to it through your speakers. Let's talk about treble. Treble, I think, is a standout on here because what they've done is they've put a really, they put an aluminum dome in here and they've done a really good job of maximizing it without it being too crazy bright. The only thing that I didn't particularly care for was the finger slides across guitar strings, especially in acoustic guitars. Seemed a little bit pronounced, a little bit, I would call it a little bit unnaturally boosted. And I'm sure they didn't intend to boost the finger slides. That's the only thing that I really heard on the top end that was like, Uninvited, Alanis Morissette. When her voice got to the highest registers, it was very pleasant. Wherever I May Roam. The beginning, Metallica. Also very good on imaging. Wow, good travel on that song. The swing part is what I listen for, because speakers that don't have a great top end, it can still be detailed, or speakers that are rolled off. Let me preface that. I'm going to back that up. Speakers that are rolled off, that swing will sound distant. It'll still be clear, but it'll just sound distant. Really well done. Really well done. Hazard Profile by Soft Machine. One of the viewers recommended that. It's very good. Hi-hat. So another little thing. The hi-hat on that song only, it didn't sound natural. It just sounded like really abrupt. Now maybe that was electronic instead of being like not electronic, real hi-hat, two cymbals going like that. I felt like it was real brief. Beat It. Left speaker. So, the left speaker on Beat It, there's a ride cymbal. And it's really hard to hear. And frankly, I'd never heard it before. Coming from the left speaker, Beat It, Michael Jackson. I think it's the Thriller album. On the ride cymbal. You could hear it. Just barely. Because there's a whole bunch of crazy stuff going on in that song. Like bullwhips. So the actual band that's behind all that electronic stuff that was piped in there, there's a band back there. There's a ride cymbal. And I hadn't heard it before I listened to the Paradigm SE Atom monitor. Hey Jude, I now have dubbed this the turbo tambourine, because on brighter speakers that tambourine can just sound overwhelming. Hey Jude. That's what it'll sound like if the speaker's not great on the top end, but not on these Paradigms. It sounded very well done. It was still pronounced, but it was not uncomfortably pronounced. It didn't sound unnatural or metallic. Although there's some good metallic, like on Shoot to Thrill, because that's a really hard part to do on the mid-range out of the right speaker initially on the song. Where it goes, these did it well. I forgot to write that down. Ooh, trumpet on So What? Miles Davis, Kind of Blue. Had details and vibrato. You know when they go up in the trumpet and you know the voice, it's not just a single note, it's just a little bit of a, and it's so nice on these. It sounded real. So tonally, this speaker sounds real in the upper registers. Okay. Oh, and there's lots of detail in Intergalactic by Beastie Boys. I hadn't heard before. Time check. What are my final thoughts? I forgot to say how much this speaker is. Right now it's $238 US on Amazon. So, Ride the Lightning, the remastered version. Very nice. This speaker made me just sit back and start to listen. And not just start to listen, but like enjoy. Like forget that I'm grading it on my paper because I'm very qualified to do that. Okay. This might ruffle some feathers. It's better than Klipsch. Or as I like to say, clips. In this price range. Specifically the R51M. Now the R51 will go on sale down to about $150. And at that price, I think the R51M is a decent buy. But they pull some tomfoolery with their pricing. Klipsch does. It's always all over the place. Now some speakers like the RP600M hold their price pretty well, about $440. And at that price, that speaker's a definite buy. What was I talking about? The Klipsch R51M. This is better than that. Like anything in the Klipsch range, with the exception of the RP400M, if it comes below, I think that's about $280. But this still makes better bass. This is better than the Klipsch in the price range. Oh, listen factor. That's my new thing. I just mentioned it before. Wherever I may roam. I just ended up listening to the whole song. So this is a more exciting speaker with a livelier top end. And if that is not your thing, you can bring it down a bit by putting the grills on. It's got a really good waveguide. And that lends itself to really good off-axis, vertically and horizontally. So, if it's too bright for you, or too lively, not bright, bright's really kind of a negative connotation to a speaker. So if it's too lively for you, then you can put the grills on. If it's still too lively for you, you can return it. Or, it's still a really good speaker. You can put a tissue on the inside of your grill. Too lively still? Put 2 tissues. Headphone people have been doing that for years. Headphone designers basically do that. They use felt or stuff like that, but bottom line, all it's doing is attenuating some of the high frequencies and maybe trapping some of the bass frequencies. But if you put it right in front of the tweeter, then you're only attenuating high frequencies. Ooh, Sinnerman. Nina Simone. Really well done. Good job, Paradigms. This also scales with equipment. I started listening to these on that Sony, where are you? STR-DH190. It's the 2-channel that a lot of people reviewed, around $100. Started listening to them on that. Then I switched over to the Emotiva TA100. $400 integrated amp. Great value. I think the best value for an integrated amp at $400. Great DAC, great phono stage, good power. the details came forward. The sound balanced out a little bit more. It wasn't jumbled to begin with on the Sony, but when I put it on the Emotiva, things got clearer and separated more. Okay? Bottom line is, it scales with better equipment. If you put this on a $1,000 integrated amp, it's probably, unless it's a Moon by Sim Audio, it's probably going to sound better. I put it on the Anthem integrated, and it sounded better than the Emotiva, but not significantly better. Yeah, it scales with equipment. So you can grow with this speaker if you want to. Oh, another thing. This speaker made me want to turn the music up. You know, when you're listening, you're like, oh yeah, turn up a little bit. It's good. The electric guitars have more sizzle with this, but not in a bad way. Just crunchier. So what, Miles Davis? It was yummy. Really enjoyed this speaker. I liked the clarity and detail of the aluminum dome. And there's not a lot of aluminum domes, like I said, besides Klipsch, and that's aluminum or titanium in some instances. Not a lot of metal dome tweeters in this price range. Most are soft dome, silk dome, whatever. I enjoyed it. It was something a little bit different. There's another speaker, the Emotiva Air Motive B1 Plus, almost exactly the same price. Same drivers, but their tweeter is a ribbon tweeter. Those two, this one and that one, are going to go head to head on the Saturday Speaker Shootout. We might throw somebody else in there around this price range. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you want to listen to what I listen to, I have my test track playlist linked in the description. You can also try Amazon HD Music Unlimited for free. You can click on that link, scroll down to the bottom, click Try HD, and you get, I think it's still 3 months for free. And if you do that, I get $1. Way you can support this channel are using my links. I get a small commission if you use it. It doesn't cost you any more. And I do also have a Patreon. Okay? And I think I'm going to start doing live stuff, whatever it's called on YouTube. Going live. Live's actually a really good band from the 90s. I should put some of that on the test tracks. Anyway, with all that, I'm Randy, and I'm the Cheap Audio Man.